Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our first webinar, during which we're going to discuss associated business risks if you leave security operations optimization for too late or if you choose to ignore it. My name is Emery Maike, and I'm the co-founder of Quantum Cybersecurity Skills for SOC Optimization. I have more than a decade experience in consulting major EMEA enterprises on various cybersecurity questions. With me today is Fernando Mejia, co-founder. He has 17 years experience in managing security operations centers and driving SOC optimization. So during today's webinar, we're going to look from technical point of view. What is an optimized SOC? Why do we need, you can identify where your current SOC is and consider why would you need SOC optimization. Second part of webinar will be us looking at the financial angle and comparing what are the operational cost reduction, cyber resilience increase, and so on in comparison of optimized SOC versus non-optimized SOC. I hope you enjoy. Fernando, let's kick in.
Hello, everyone. This is Fernando Mejia. So I would like to restart because we consider SOC optimization is a very important topic that probably we are taking apart. So let's start. First of all, we have to put on the table the variables into an lucrative market which respond to supply and demand law. The creativity is empowered constantly. In addition, the dynamism of the IT environment puts a lot of pressure on prevention and detection task. We have a lot of examples. First of all, if we consider the Garmin case, which was compromised by a ransomware, we have other good example, which is world leader Twitter accounts were compromised, and of course the SolarWinds attack that is still alive. More recently, we have the case of Malwarebytes that was compromised by a nation-state actor. And finally, we have the FARI case, which was compromised through the Red Team toolset. If these two big InfoSec players were compromised, probably we have to think about if we are compromised as well. The attackers have all the overview, recognizing the landscape, thinking about carefully the next step. They have all the time of the world. On the other hand, we are so busy behind the defense line without knowing what is happening, waiting for data that has to be confirmed and collecting intel at the same time. An attacker needs to be successful once, for sure. If in the defense line, we have to be successful 100% of the time, having 0% margin of mistake, which is totally impossible. Attackers just need one single click to compromise nations, organizations, and individuals. Threats could produce damage on different scales. They do not give concessions. However, we have since a lot of years ago a magic combination, which is as simple as effective, and sometimes we forget it. To be honest with you, it's so simple that we most of the times we forget it. There is IT sources such as servers, endpoints, security platforms, public resources that belong to operational layer. In the second layer, we have processes such as security monitoring, threat intelligence, incident response process, and other uh, processes that belong to to tactical layer. And finally, in the third layer, we have people, all the SOC staff, for sure, the SOC manager, all security managers, uh, and CISOs, CFOs, CEOs, those belong to strategical layer. This is the magic formula that we have been talk about it. We do not have to reinvent the wheel. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. Uh, However, the correct instrumentation of technology, processes, people will allow the capabilities of those verticals to mature under a cycle of constant improvement in order to establish a worthy SOC platform. This is the baseline. This is the fundamental part. Okay. The aspects of a SOC are not only technical matters, but also business and strategic matters. This is why your SOC is totally transversal. Uh, and this applies to both SOC providers and SOC clients. We have to be sure that we are delivering a good service, a service that is protecting our clients. And as a SOC clients, we have to be sure that we are receiving a high quality service. We have receiving a service that is another defensive layer, another defensive layer. In the operational layer, we are receiving data. We are processing data. The data that are extracting from the IT sources that we have integrated in our security operations center. And we have to be sure that the relevant parts of the data is converting into information. This is in the this is, we are talking about in the tactical layer. If we start extracting these relevant parts and we start processing information, uh, we are able to identify risk, low risk, medium risk, high risk, in order to establish a security posture. What is critical, what we need to prioritize. In the decision making, in the strategical layer, we have to escalate the services that we already have, and we have to consider the further uh, services that we would like to justify, that we would like to implement in our security operations center. Okay, the at the end, the the first goal is to business grow. We process data to convert it into information to ease the decision making in order to business grow. This is why it's so relevant, the the character of the data in our security operations center. we have a couple of assumptions because we for sure we have identified that we have bought expensive technology. We have deployed expensive technology with specific functions. And we have to ask ourselves, is our technology being generating the right data? Are we are considering the right logs into our security operations center? Are we are taking advantage of our CM? The firewall delivering, relaying the right logs? In the tactical layer, we have a lot of processes, but we have to be sure that those processes are useful in the moment of crisis. Will be our processes useful when the critical moment happens? Or is just that dusty manual in the InfoSec library? We have to be careful with them. In the strategic layer, we have skillful people that we have hired to conduct and to drive specific functions. Those talented people uh, have to be totally focused on a specific task. And we have to ask ourselves, is our specialist people performing those security dedicated tasks? If we are able to answer or not to answer those questions, we have an additional questions. What is our degree of deviation for our business objectives? Our SOC is efficient? Of course, it's about technical stuff. It's highly relevant. And this is the reason why your SOC is or data factory, where it's possible to extract and create any kind of indicator and convert them into business metrics, harden the decision making of the C level, because our SOC is our risk indicator, is the strategy dashboard. This is why, again, SOC operations is totally into the business. It's not just technical stuff. It's, as I mentioned before, legal, economic, strategic, business matters. First of all, to identify what is the deviation of our security operations center, we have to identify the vital signs of our SOC. And those vital signs are totally linked to the third layer that we established before. The data management, the program data management that we have established, it has to be efficient. So we have to be sure that the technology that is integrating in our SOC, the IT sources that we are monitoring are the right ones. And we have to be sure that we are selecting the data right. And the consultancy that we are providing to our clients or that we are providing for ourselves is make recommendations, measurements, is well conducted by the processes, of course, the procedures that we have creating and that we are using all the time to delivering services. And we have to be sure that those processes are well used and are aligned to the laws, to the norms, to the standards that already exist. Of course, could be a useful process, but has to be totally aligned to something, best practice, a standard, and a law, as we mentioned. In the strategic layer, in order to ease the decision making of the business generation, we have to take the advantage of the talented people that we have, use their skills in the best way in order to trigger actionable information, to convert the data of our technology in, in actionable information, in order to reach out the business alignment, and again, to create business indicators. Uh, However, in the operational layer, we have to perform specific functions, specific tasks such as detecting, analyze, respond, notify, uh, documenting. In the tactical layer, we have to define indicators and performing monitoring. I'm talking about business indicators, not security indicators, security metrics. Okay, we have to be able to define business indicators in this part, and we have to be able to monitoring our performance, if we are efficient or not, what is the degree of deviation of our performance. In the strategic layer, we have to be able to provide business visibility to ease the decision making of the C level. Uh, and we have to apply improvements. This is the first part of the life cycle of optimization. If we are capable to provide business visibility to ease the decision making, I highlighted that we start identify the opportunity areas that we have in our security operations center. As a SOC provider, why to optimize our SOC? As a SOC client, how can we be sure we are receiving a high quality SOC service? It's something like perform a reverse engineering to our SOC, because of course we have a contract, we have a KPIs, we have SLAs, but we have to identify the previous vital signs to be sure that we are providing a good SOC service and we are receiving a high quality SOC service. Why? To identify SOC glitches, take full advantage of the service, get valuable indicators to the business board, support security and business initiatives. Okay, for example, in the SOC provider, to positioning a new security service. In the SOC client, to ask budget to buy a new technology, for example, or to escalate the IPS of the SIM, for example. However, we have identified a couple of symptoms. In the operational layer, we have identified data saturation, misuse of tools. In the tactical layer, we have identified bottlenecks and pull reports. In the strategical layer, we have identified work-life balance, turnovers, and this issue has a name that we have identified. This could be discussed later on by Emma, which is called invisible gorilla issue. So Emma, would you like to talk about the invisible gorilla issue, please?
Thank you, Fernando. Indeed. Some of you might think, so what the invisible gorilla has to do with the SOC environment. So, this test that was created and run by Nobel Prize psychology researchers Christopher Chabris and Daniel Simons is dating back to about 20 years. What they did, they had two teams, one wearing white t shirts, another wearing black t shirts. And the participants of this test were given primary task to count the ball passes only of the team wearing white t-shirts, completely ignoring what the black team was doing. So, in the middle of the experiment, a man dressed up as a gorilla walks in the middle of the action, spends about 9 to 10 seconds, and walks away. But what this experiment found was when engaged in a mental sprint, people may become effectively blind. So the results showed that 50% of test participants did not notice the black gorilla walking in and spending quite a significant amount to be noticed. So, my question to you, dear listeners of this webinar, is you know, can you see the association with your security operations center? Imagine, like new threat intel coming in constantly, your SOC team responding to alerts, identifying does this alert need to be converted into event? Does it need to be converted into incidents? Is there a breach? Yes, no. So it's constantly changing environments. It's constantly, it feels like there is not enough time for your security operations to perform all necessary tasks. So if we would ask you, or if you ask yourselves, do you know how efficient is your security operations? How, what level of cyber resilience are they delivering? Is your security operations among the SOC optimized SOC leaders, or they are not amongst the leaders? So those are the questions I would say you should put not only at operational, tactical, but also strategical level, most importantly. So let me discuss a little bit in more detail. So where is this invisible gorilla hiding within your security operations center? As Fernando has rightly mentioned, it is in SOC, hiding in SOC talent turnover. It could be, your SOC team's skills are not optimized. Maybe they are not receiving enough or at all training to be more efficient. Maybe there is very high levels of work stress. Maybe you the churn is because of life work balance and so on. Technology, as Fernando has mentioned, you keep investing over the years. Are you creating just too many panes of glass to manage for your teams, or are you taking the maximum out of the technology? Is the technology validated to deliver the maximum security service for your organization? Processes, again, as Fernando has mentioned, can those processes withstand a time when it's very critical, when you actually have the data breach? Because every minute counts, every minute adds to your bill. Business alignments, again, that could be an expression. Do we think our SOC is underfunded? What is the level of trust by the board of directors in our security operations? Do they really understand the value in their language, business language, what our security operations is delivering? So that via actionable information, that is, again, as Fernando has mentioned, we are collecting a lot of logs. Do we need all of them? I'm here talking also about data that is collected in different departments, not only SecOps, but let's say NOC, IT ops, DevSecOps. Are we communicating efficiently to exchange it and convert it into actionable information to help make the decisions faster. So, financial benefits of an optimized SOC. I will actually discuss it in three layers to keep consistent with Fernando. So, it's operational, tactical, and strategical layers. What is the value of optimized SOC? And I'm going to start from the perspective. So, we all know the average global breach cost. It may vary according to the industry, of course, and the more records are being breached, the more costly it will be for your organization. And some of you might think, all right, we already have established a process with our CFO. We calculate in, let's say, 1 million, 10 million, whatever your number is, as potential data breach. And we can afford, uh, you know, this amount as a multi-billion dollar organization. But there is very interesting report by Deloitte, which I highly recommend for you to read. It's called Risk Beneath the Surface of a Cyber Attack. And they suggest that about, up to 95% of data breach cost is actually hiding beneath the surface and is spread across 5 years. And this relates to lost contracts, uh, lost trust in the brand by the customers. And one of the use cases I would like to mention is Equifax data breach. As you know, it has happened in 2017. And 4 years later, it was happening in 2017, about 150 million records were breached. And the initial bill was about 300 million US dollars. 4 years later, the final bill looks like to reach 1.38 billion US dollars. So, as I mentioned at the beginning of this slide, think about, put things into perspective. It's not just the actual data breach amount, but a long tail that could scale it to a significant uh, shakeup of your business operations. So, at operational level, reducing direct operational costs with an optimized SOC. What does it mean? So, let's say average cost per attack per incident is 107,000 US dollar for optimized SOC, and we can already see that non-optimized SOC is 3 times uh, more costly to the organization. And this data is produced by Accenture. Annual number of average security breaches. Again, you can see an optimized SOC is way more efficient, delivering better business resilience. Yes, non-optimized. But so if we multiply number of average security breaches by average cost per attack per incident, we get about 6 million US dollars, which means those are SecOps direct operational costs, and non-optimized SOC can cost you that much per annum more. So an optimized SOC is better at stopping more attacks by 4 times, finding breaches faster by 4 times, fixing breaches faster by 4 times, and reducing breach impact by 50%. It's not just numbers. All those numbers link into direct US dollar value. And who is paying? Your organization, your customers. And this is where it goes into business agility and how do you stand in front of, how do you compare to your competitors? Are you agile enough? At tactical level, optimized SOC has direct impact of reducing data breach cost. So if there are certain tactics that increase data breach cost, according to Ponemon and IBM research, like compliance failure, security skills shortage. If we have remote workforce, and I'm sure many of us have during this COVID um, challenge. There are tactics that help to reduce data breach cost, like CISO appointment, board involvement, cyber insurance, incident response team, red team testing, a big thing. And those tactics. They sum up to multi-million dollar value, which help to either reduce the data breach cost or increase data breach cost. So let's go to the strategical level and discover a use case of significant incident. By the way, my calculations are based on methodologies that were covered in the book called How to Measure Anything in Cybersecurity Risk by Douglas Hubbard and Richard Saracen. And I also looked at FEAR cybersecurity framework. So let's say the success rate of the attack is at 90%. Probability is 1 in 22 months. And this data is coming from Accenture reports. You should have your own data. If you don't, I would highly recommend to start looking at it. So calculated probability in 12 months is coming to those values. Average global breach cost. Again, you have to know what a significant incident means specifically to your organization. For the purpose of this calculation, I'm just taking average global breach at almost 4 million US dollars. So again, we get certain values here. How did we achieve those values? We just multiplied the numbers in marked in rectangles. So the difference between optimized SOC and non-optimized SOC, or optimization value, as I call it, starts with almost 600,000 US dollars in this case. And again, some of you might think, yeah, is it really worth doing anything if we get optimization value just at this level? But again, as I recommended in previous few slides, let's look at perspective. Let's put things into perspective. So let's say if significant incident to our organization is about 50 million US dollars, then again, if we calculate certain values here, and very quickly the SOC optimization value runs into multi-million dollar values, or on average 14% of average data breach cost. Okay. So another example or use case at strategical level, I'm gonna look at SOC turnover. So SOC turnover rate, again, you should know what is your SOC turnover rate. Ponemon suggests it's about 31% on average. Annual SOC cost for the organization between 10,000 to 25,000 employees, according to Ponemon, is nearly 3 million. Turnover cost to employer, again, different sources were suggesting different data. I was trying to calculate it myself. I'm coming more close to 200%, but for the sake of this exercise, I'm taking 100 at 130%. So reducing SOC turnover cost, Ponemon suggests in the reports, an optimized SOC is by 40% better. So avoidable annual turnover cost to the employer is almost 400,000 and 660,000 accordingly. Again, if the difference or SOC optimization value in this particular case is nearly 300,000 US dollar, or between 10-20% of your annual SOC cost. So when we start adding up everything at different layers, operational inefficiency could cost you potentially $6 million per annum if you don't have an optimized SOC. At tactical level, data breach cost, you can either help to reduce it, or certain actions will help to increase the data breach cost. And at strategical level, the business risk is, and I'm talking here about optimization value itself, is from 14% of average breach cost. SOC turnover cost to the employer is from 10% of annual SOC cost and can go very quickly into 20%. So, you should have those numbers, as I say, specific to your organization. But the point is, optimized SOCs are more cyber resilient. They invest in operational speed. They drive value from new investments, and they sustain what they have. And it's not only Accenture's statement. This statement, in just different words, has been echoed in Gartner reports, in Deloitte reports, KPMG, and so on. So if you need SOC optimization, you need to speak to your executives. They are the ones who are driving the budgets. They are the ones who can make the decisions about upskilling and staffing of your SOC teams, and control as well as influence cooperative environment. So we are your trusted and dedicated partner to continuously maximize ISO 27001 Plan, Do, Check, Act for the purpose of delivering strategically mature, efficient, and resilient business-aligned security services operations. How do we differ? It's not only that we rely on our team's expertise, which is significant, but we constantly run SOC superposition interviews with industry security leaders, and we gather best advice or best business practice from there. We heavily look into cybersecurity books and what recommendations do they have. We look into published research papers, articles, studies, security frameworks, compliance. We also run, and last year we ran anonymized survey of 50 security operations centers globally. We ask the questions, and we have answers to many, many questions, many challenges many SOCs are facing. So we analyze this data, we group this data, and we come up with success recipes of SOC optimization. Of course, one size does not fit all. The conversation we need to have is to understand what is your business priority. So according to your business needs, we will define success recipe for your SOC optimization. And I would like to thank you on behalf of Fernando and myself. And please do not hesitate to book a consultation with us. And now let's open up questions and answer session. Thank you. I think there was one question for Fernando. In the meantime, I am going to answer one question that was communicated to us via email. And the question was if we engaged and help the business. The business. So the question was, if we help businesses to run the calculations to prepare the use cases or business cases. Yes, we do. This is not our primary task, but yes, we do as a part of the project,
So
and
the
we
question was,
collaborate
if we help
with the
businesses
customers.
to
So yes, we can lend
run
you
the
a hand.
calculations to prepare
Um,
the use cases or
Fernando,
business cases.
if
Yes,
you
we
would
do. This
like
is not
to
our
read
primary
out
task, but yes, we
the
do as a part of
question
the
that was
project.
posted
So the
in the
question
chat.
was,
Yes, hi, hi everybody. The question is how to find Covita in resilience at SOC to make actionable information. Well, an additional comment is very important role to business compliance and business intelligence. This is very, this is the very, very good question. First of all, in a SOC operation, it's not just trigger notification and generate alerts. It's about to identify silent pain in our SOC in the three levels. The three levels will be our map. Okay, so in the operational layer, establish, for example, data management in order to identify if we are relying the correct logs. In the tactic layer, for example, if the security team are performing dedicated security tasks, we have to avoid any task which is not linked or which is not related to operation. And uh, the, the third layer, okay, in the strategic layer, we have to keep in mind that we as a defender, as a SOC team, must have a clear vision of business goals. As I mentioned before, and I would like to emphasize that it's not just technical matters. We have to identify that those technical stuff is totally aligned to the C level because the C level doesn't see the return on money thrown at security solutions. This is why is one of our responsibilities is identify the knots in the rope and help to tie them off. Taking full advantage of the stock service is not easy, but it's totally possible if we provide a route map. I hope I answered that question.
And if I may add from my side, communication is the key. I was engaged a lot with DevSecOps teams as well as SecOps. So DevSecOps identify earlier the code level vulnerabilities. Are they communicated to SecOps? So it's all about communication as well. So thank you so much, everyone. This is our first, or was our first webinar. Thank you for being patient, and we look forward seeing you and meeting you on our follow-up webinars. Thank you so much.